she dusty. Oh. Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah and I love to talk about books. And today I need your help, guys. I have gone through the oldest books on my Goodreads TBR and I need you to help me decide, do I unhaul them or do I keep them to read at some future point? I'm okay with having hundreds of books. Like, I don't mind that at all. I have a book trolley here in my bedroom. I have a bookcase in my living room. I have a massive bookcase in my office, which all of these came off of, because that was like my first bookcase and tends to be like the books that I've read but don't really want on display, or older books from my TBR, like this massive pile beside me. But I also love buying books, and there might be some here that are just taking up shelf space that aren't really worth my time, or just that I'll never get to. So I'm going to go through these ones. These aren't all the oldest, but I did try to restrain myself. So these all went up on Goodreads when I first started to upload my books onto that site, which I think was like in 2012, 2013, I can't remember. But so that's not necessarily when I bought them, so some of them are even older than that. Some by, I think, probably a good 10 years. And so let's just take a wee look through what I've pulled out and have a wee chat about them. And then I would love it if in the comments below you let me know of any that you think I should particularly keep hold of and read, or any that you are really sure that I should just get rid of. So the first book, the very oldest book on my TBR on Goodreads, I uploaded this on the 4th of April 2012, and it's The Bullet Trick by Louise Welsh. So this was one of 27, I think it was, books that I uploaded at that time. I've read all of the other ones. I'm not sure why I haven't read this, and I'm fairly sure that I'm going to keep this because I've enjoyed Louise Welsh's other books that I've read, and it does sound really interesting. So I'll just read you the back. It says, William Wilson is a conjurer fallen on hard times, so when he gets booked for a string of gigs in Berlin, he is hoping his luck is on the turn. Amongst the showgirls, the tricksters, and the femme fatales of Berlin's cabaret scene, William can abandon his heart, his head, and more importantly, his past. But somehow secrets have a habit of catching up with him. So that sounds interesting. I like the writer. Pretty sure I'm going to keep this, but if you've read it and you want to trash it, go ahead. And the next books I'm going to discuss were all shelved on the 9th of March 2013. I think at that point I was just rejigging my bookcase and decided to scan all the barcodes in. I was on maternity leave at the time in our first house, which didn't have enough space for all my books, but I had moved some into that house, and I think I just scanned them all because I was bored on maternity leave, to be honest. So the first one is at the very bottom of this pile, so they're probably all gonna fall over. Oh my god. Oh. Did it? And it is, by the way, the biography of the Red Hot Chili Peppers by Dave Thompson. I was a huge Chili Peppers fan when I was younger. I've seen them live 3 or 4 times. I was just completely obsessed with them. Not so much anymore. I haven't listened to them in years, and I think their music just kind of stopped being relevant to me. But I do think, you know, the band is really interesting. It's made up of some really interesting men, not just in this lineup, but in its different versions. And there's a lot of difficult and sad stories in their journey to being famous. And so I think from that point of view, even though I'm not really into their music anymore, their older music will always mean a lot to me, and I think they are just really interesting. I've read biographies of people that I didn't know about before. I've read biographies of people that I didn't really think I would be interested in and really enjoyed them before. So I'm kind of torn on this one. They were a huge part of my life. So what do you think, guys? Should I keep it, or is it time to let them go? And then we come on to another one at the bottom of the pile. I think I'm getting the hang of this, guys. And it is My Childhood by Maxim Gorky. I think I picked this up in the fabulous used bookshop Voltaire Rousseau, which is in the West End of Glasgow. It's a crazy place. I'm really hoping to take you there with me on a vlog one day. But I can't think for the life of me why I picked this up, because the cover, that is so ugly. That would not have been what appealed to me, but it is a memoir and I do really like those. And it says, coloured by poverty and horrifying brutality, Gorky's childhood equipped him to understand, in a way denied to a Tolstoy or Turgenev, the life of the ordinary Russian. After his father, a paperhanger and upholsterer, died of cholera, 5-year-old Gorky was taken to live with his grandfather, a polecat-faced tyrant who would regularly beat him unconscious, and with his grandmother, a tender mountain of a woman and a wonderful storyteller who would kneel beside their bed, Gorky miming sleep, and give God her views on the day's happenings, down to the last fascinating detail. She was, in fact, Gorky's closest friend and the epic heroine of a book swarming with characters and with the sensations of a curious and often frightened little boy. So actually that sounds quite good, and apparently he is the father of Russian literature, although that's not a subgenre that I am particularly crazy about, and I've never heard of him. But I am curious about that story, so again, over to you guys. What do you think? Next up is Microserfs by Douglas Coupland. So I went through a real Douglas Coupland phase. It started off with Generation X, which I liked, and then I loved Girlfriend in a Coma and Eleanor Rigby. Then I thought Life After God, which is this one that I've still got, and also Shampoo Planet, which I seem to have unhauled that one already. They were a bit meh. And then I really did not like The Gum Thief, which I've unhauled. And so I kind of went off of him after that. So I'm thinking with this one, it might not have aged well, because, I mean, you can probably tell from the way it's formatted at the back. It's very, when was it written? Let's see, I think it was 90s, early 90s, 95, so bang in the middle of the 90s. And it's set at computer giant Microsoft, where Dan, Susan, Abe, Todd and Bug are struggling to get a life in a high-speed, high-tech environment. The job may be super cool, the pay may be astronomical, but they're heading nowhere, and however hard they work, however many shares they earn, they're never going to be as rich as Bill. And besides, with all the hours they're putting in, their best relationships are on email. Something's got to give. I think if this wasn't a Douglas Coupland book and I looked at that premise, I probably wouldn't be that interested in it. But if it is more like Generation X and Girlfriend in a Coma and Eleanor Rigby, I would probably enjoy it. So I would be looking to hear from anyone who's read it. Is it more like those, or is it more like the ones that I didn't enjoy so much? I would love to hear your thoughts. And then I have So Many Ways to Begin by John McGregor. I read If Nobody Speaks of Remarkable Things. I can't remember when I first read it, maybe like 2007, and then I reread it a couple of years ago, and I love that book. I think that book is wonderful. But then the next John McGregor I tried, which was Even the Dogs, I was a bit more meh about. And I do have a couple of books that are unread by that. I've got a couple of his books that, along with So Many Ways to Begin, I also haven't read. So I've got Reservoir 13, and I've also got a NetGalley Lean Full Stand, I think it's called, which I'm going to be reading this year. So obviously, Even the Dogs didn't put me off, but in the same vein, I haven't actually read any of them yet. But I'm willing to give him another chance, because If Nobody Speaks of Remarkable Things is just almost a perfect book. So I'm definitely going to keep hold of this. I actually can't remember what it's about. David Carter cannot help but wish for more, that his wife Eleanor would still be the ambitious and sparkling Scottish girl he once found so irresistible, that his job as a museum curator could live up to the promise it once held, that his daughter's arrival could have brought her parents closer. but a few careless words spoken by his mother's friend Julia have left David restless with the knowledge that his whole life has been constructed around a lie. Struggling to make sense of his past through his archive of photos, letters and artefacts, David is driven forward across wartime London and post-war Coventry, Aberdeen and rural Ireland in a search for meaning and truth. Which sounds pretty good to me. So yeah, I think I'll be keeping, well, both of these John McGregors and also reading that NetGalley this year. But again, if you have a passionate opinion otherwise, please do tell me. Then we have a memoir called Perishable by Dirk, Jamison. I'm pretty sure I'm going to keep this. I have no idea why I haven't read it yet, because I've been interested in it ever since I picked it up. And I can tell you about it without even reading the back. So this is a memoir of a family who basically lived as dumpster divers because the father gave up his job and decided that they could live without capitalism. And, you know, just beyond that, I think his mother was not really in touch with reality. His father was a bit of an absent parent and his sister wanted to kill him all the time. So I think it sounds really interesting. I have no idea why I haven't read this yet. So that's going on the keep pile, but again, sway me if you wanna. And then I have an Anita Shreve, Anita Shreve, I don't know, and it's called When or Where. And to be honest, even just looking at that cover, I'm already feeling a bit meh about this one, which is funny because I read Testimony, and I also read Light on Snow, which I think was a library book. And I really enjoyed both of those. I think she's probably a bit of like a Jodi Picoult writer, who they're good writers, but not everything they choose to write about is really something I'm interested in. What is this even about? When Charles Callahan chances on a newspaper photograph of Sian Richards, a woman he loved when they were both only 13, he's hardly in a position to do anything about it. He's been faithfully married for years and his Rhode Island real estate business has been hit hard by the recession, but Charles cannot bear his curiosity and decides to get in touch. 3 decades after they last saw each other, the two lovers meet. Powerfully drawn together once again, Charles and Sian are forced to come to terms with the nature of erotic love and betrayal, moral quandaries in an age of shifting values, and the elusive nature of time. I don't think I really want to read a book about cheaters, to be honest. That's probably going to go in the charity pile. But again, if you think that there's something good in this book that would be worth putting myself through that, give us a shout. The next one, I was surprised I had actually had it this long, and again that I hadn't got around to it. Oh god, she dusty. Is Mouthing the Words by Camilla Gibb. I've never read any of her books before, and this is about Thelma, who is 6 years old. Life at home is unsettling and disturbing. Her father's games are not enjoyable, and her mother dotes on Willie, the favoured child. When her parents move to Canada, Thelma smuggles her imaginary friends with her in her suitcase. By turns harrowing and wonderfully funny, Mouthing the Words tells Thelma's story of sexual abuse, anorexia, borderline multiple personality disorder, and her return to England. Reminiscent of Jeanette Winterson and Sylvia Plath, Mouthing the Words is a remarkable and inspiring fiction debut. It actually has a quote from Jeanette Winterson, which is a bit cringe. It says, "It's sassy, it's smart. Go girl." Oh dear. Yeah, there's a lot going on in this book, isn't there? Sexual abuse, anorexia, borderline multiple personality disorder, and immigration. So what do you think, guys? I mean, to me that sounds quite interesting, and I do like both Jeanette Winterson and Sylvia Plath, so I'm thinking keep, but I'm kind of on the fence. Yeah, I think I might keep this one, but one I know that I will definitely not be keeping is, and actually I've got a few books here that kind of go along with it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this one's going to go in the charity pile. possibly the bin, is Roald Dahl's Switch Bitch. So let's rewind. We all know, particularly for my generation, Roald Dahl was the childhood writer. I loved him. My dad used to read Roald Dahl books to me and my brother at bedtime. It's one of my favourite childhood memories. So, you know, I adored him to the point where I bought this massive biography of him by Sturrock. It's called Storyteller, The Life of Roald Dahl. So before I read this, I had read Dahl's own memoirs, Boy and Going Solo. I really loved Boy. Boy is fantastic. Going Solo I didn't like quite so much. I think just because he was older in that one, and although the stories in it are funny, there is a touch of who I'm now realising who Roald Dahl really was. This goes into it a bit. He was a bit of a liar, but this book didn't really put me off Dahl, it just made me question him. Obviously, there's now other things about him that make him quite an unattractive character. But this book, Switch Bitch, came in a box set with some other Roald Dahl books. I think it had more than this, but maybe not. In fact, it did, because one is definitely missing. I probably burned it, but we'll get to that in a second. So this has got both of his memoirs in it, collection of short stories. Is this? I think these are short stories as well, and this is kind of, I think it's a novel in short stories. And the one that's missing is the own, well, no, I've read those two. In fact, no, I did read The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar a couple of years ago. It didn't leave much impression on me, but I obviously haven't got rid of it like I did. I think it's called My Uncle Oswald. My Uncle Oswald was so disgusting that it actually left me feeling ashamed that I had loved his books for children. I mean, essentially, it's just a story making light of rape. In this case, it's the rape of men. And it just made my skin crawl. I thought it was disgusting. And like I said, I'm sure there were other books in this box set. So I think I've already gone through and chucked out the ones that looked like duds. And I read this short story collection the year before last, I think. I think it was just okay. And then I'm left with these two. This one definitely sounds like it's more in line with My Uncle Oswald, so I think it's pretty much definitely going to go in the bin, because apparently it's got the delicious thrill of sexual expectation and its sometimes maddening effects are explored in The Great Switcheroo and The Last Act. Here, the power of desire is a double-edged sword, both pleasurable and potentially catastrophic. The Visitor and Bitch are extracts from the diaries of the notorious Oswald Hendricks Cornelius, who I think, yes, is Uncle Oswald again. So yeah, I don't even need to read any more of that bin. And Someone Like You. In the opening story, taste the stakes of a dinner party that reach distasteful heights, and a wife serves up a new dish in Lamb to the Slaughter, which goes down well with the boys in blue. Layers of deceit are stripped away in Nunc Dimittis, but what is revealed is far from honest. Meanwhile, the man from the south questions whether you really do need the little finger on your left hand. I don't know. I don't know if I can be bothered really with Roald Dahl anymore. I don't know about this one. Talk to me, guys. Help me. Stick with it. I've just got a few more. I decided not to, take every single book off my shelves. Ooh, sorry. The next one is The Memory Box by Margaret Forster. I've never read anything by this author before. It says, a mother leaves her baby daughter a mysterious sealed box before she dies. Years later, when Catherine opens her mother's box, she finds it full of strange, unexplained objects, carefully wrapped and numbered like clues to a puzzle. Catherine never knew her mother, but her idealised image as the perfect, beautiful and talented woman that the rest of her family remembers has long cast a shadow over her life. As she tries to solve the mystery of the box of secrets, she is pulled into the past and into her mother's story, which reveals a woman far more complex, surprising, and dangerous than the family legend has allowed. And in turn, Catherine, fiercely independent, self-absorbed, discovers unexpected truths about herself. So that could be good. It could be a bit of a dud. I don't know. This is why I'm making this video. Help. Then we have The Wonders of the Invisible World by David Gates, another author that I've never heard of. A woman misses her true love and chafes at life with an embittered husband. A gay man leaves the big city for life in his hometown, only to find himself cast as a father figure to his detoxing sister's young son. A down-at-heel academic loses his wife, child, and student lover. Often dark, but always funny, these are stories from one of America's most brilliant and vivid chroniclers, who I've never heard of. Actually, that sounds quite interesting. I don't have too many short story collections on my shelf, so I think I'll probably keep this. But again, if you've read him and he's terrible, I would appreciate the heads up. And then we have another male author. This is Other People by Martin Amis. It's Amis, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's Amis. Now I've read one of his books called The Night Train. Literally couldn't tell you anything about it, apart from I think the main character was female but very butch, and that's about all I can remember. She was like a police officer. So what's this one about? Like a ghost or a fugitive, Mary roams through London, pursuing and pursued by memory and forgetting, by the compelling Amy Hyde and the charming Mr. Wrong. Martin Amis sustains an unnervingly high degree of suspense as Mary and the reader yearn to grasp what's happened to Mary's past and ponder what its loss has gained her, unfolding as a metaphysical thriller where jealously guarded secrets jostle with startling insights. Other People is ambitious and accomplished, and heralded for Amis an unexpected new direction as a novelist, and for the rest of us, an experience not to be missed. There's a lot of ass kissing in that, which doesn't always mean it's going to be worth it. Is it worth that hype? Should I bother with this author? I don't know anything about him. Is he problematic? It'd be good to know. And then you'll be glad to know the final book on this pile, which is quite possibly the scabbiest book I own. It's A Dream of Belonging, My Years in Postwar Poland by Janina Bowman. This is an uncorrected proof of a book from 1988, which is why it's looking a bit sorry for itself. This was definitely a Voltaire et Rousseau purchase. And oh, it's gnarly, but actually it's a shame it's in such bad condition because I actually quite like a cute little apple pattern on it. So this is about Janina. It's a memoir. While still in her teens, she found herself back in devastated Warsaw, where work and study, the dream of escape to Palestine, and her shattered idealism jostled uncomfortably together. Then came new pleasures and joys, academic study, a whirlwind courtship, and a marriage to dashing Conrad, already committed to a new Poland under communism, a successful career in the film industry, the birth of her daughters, and her own acceptance into the Communist Party. These were years filled with hope and a promise of a country rebuilding itself. But then, at first almost imperceptibly, the political climate began to change. Economic plans failed, purges intensified, curbs were imposed on cultural... Right, I don't need to read anymore. I'm keeping this. I can definitely understand why I picked this up in the first place. This sounds fascinating. And, I mean, I doubt anyone will have read this, but no one's going to be able to change my mind. I'm reading this. That is my bookcase pillaged and all the books thoroughly examined. So after going through all of that, I've got one definite chuck out, and then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that I'm definitely keeping unless any of you sway me. So then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that I'm torn on. So yeah, any feedback you can give me would be really helpful. And actually I've quite enjoyed this. It's been fun to revisit some books that I literally haven't looked at for years. So this has been a nice way to pass the time. I hope it's interested you and it hasn't been too boring. Thanks for sticking around and watching. And what's the oldest book on your TBR? Do you not mind having tons and tons of books, or do you like to keep your TBR quite small and you're better at reading books as soon as you get hold of them, rather than stashing them for years like I clearly do? I'm always interested to hear about people's reading habits, so give me a shout. And until next time, bye.